In case you've been living under a rock, people are not happy about the new adaptation of Wuthering Heights by Emerald Fennell of promising young woman and Saltburn fame. Or should we say infamy.
It's so weird to be like, yes, I had this private showing and by the end everyone wanted to eat Jacob Elordi.
Characters repeatedly call him a racial slur for Romani people. What were you imagining? When the book mentioned Heathcliff as a Lasker, what were you imagining?
Oktoberfest version of Wuthering Heights.
It is.
But it is now cemented as a book cover. Forever, the words Emily Bronte and this movie are together. They're bound. When the movie is actually more like a self-insert Wattpad fanfiction written by a 14-year-old. Big spoilers ahead in case you've somehow missed all of this discourse that's been going on for about a year now. If you haven't read the book before, you'll still understand this video, but if you are a fan of the book, you will appreciate this video more. Wuthering Heights is not really a romance, but Emerald Fennell is not the only one who's seen it as one. It's a story of obsession, race, class, of othering and the impacts of cruelty, tormented love, intergenerational trauma, and revenge. I read it when I was a depressed 19 or 20-year-old because I heard that it was like the greatest love story of all time, and it only made me more depressed and also confused. What about all of this cruelty is love? But that is the point. It is a gothic romance, a cautionary tale of sorts. It's a toxic relationship and all of these impacts that are created from this cruelty. Emerald has said that she wants to make us cry so much that we vomit, but I was sitting there like this for most of the movie, and I was genuinely looking forward to this toxic whirlwind romance and having a good cry. And I defend modern reimaginings of classics because we've arguably gotten some great pieces of work out of it. Emma became Clueless. Dangerous Liaisons gave us Cruel Intentions. Taming of the Shrew gave us the masterpiece that is 10 Things I Hate About You. They get the core themes of the story and adapt them to modern times in ways that are relatable to modern audiences.
Tempestuous? Heinous bitch is the term used most often.
And I fully support this because there is a clear respect for the original work. Baz Luhrmann made Romeo plus Juliet into this visual, musical, iconic feast, paired with the bard's own words, but it was largely hated, including by famed critic Roger Ebert. And there are people like myself today who utterly adore it.
I defy you, stars!
Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio gave us this haunting, dark version of the story. And more recently with Frankenstein 2, which people have had backlash about. But so long as the core themes are kept to, we can get brilliant and amazing reimaginings of these great classics. Were we really expecting her to be faithful when we saw her eating this giant strawberry? No. This is not Wuthering Heights. This is Quivering Heights. 50 Shades of Bronte. It could have been called The Undoing of Bronte's Bodice, or More in the Moors, or simply More. The connection between the book and the movie are not even second cousins twice removed. Think of the Wuthering Heights book as this rich tapestry, and this movie has taken a few of the threads out of it and mixed it in with a wannabe lusty, shiny fever dream. And you've got something entirely different over here. As Alison Whitmore writes, finally, a smooth-brained Wuthering Heights. And I was speaking with Rachel from Girl on Film, I'll link her channel for you down below, and she said, and I quote, "If the aesthetic is different, the plot is different, the themes are different, the soul is different, then what is the point? Heathcliff is transformed from a bitter victim of classism and racism into a sexual sadist. Their mutual wildness is replaced with a sexual affair and kinky proclivities. It has only the bare bones of Wuthering Heights, almost to the point that I feel the name is purely rage bait marketing, and it got me. When I wasn't bored, I was mad. So I went and watched the movie yesterday because can we critique a work without seeing it for ourselves? No. Centering whiteness in a privileged lens. So Emerald Fennell both wrote and directed this film, and she's been very clear in interviews that she doesn't think that anybody can actually adapt a book as dense as this, and thinks that all adaptations should have quotation marks around them.
I can't say I'm making Wuthering Heights. It's not possible. What I can say is I'm making a version of it.
This movie came about because of how she remembered Wuthering Heights when she read it at the age of 14.
There's a version that I remembered reading that isn't quite real. And there's a version that I there's a version where I wanted stuff to happen that never happened. And so it is Wuthering Heights and it isn't.
And it really does feel like a self-insert fanfic with a big budget and a stunted perspective. You can really feel it from the dialogue onwards. I was hopeful when it was the child portion at the start, and then it just kept on getting worse. It's like an entire mix of The Princess Bride without the wit, meets 50 Shades of Grey, meets a failed attempt at Cruel Intentions, with massive overtones of Gone with the Wind, and I have looked at the films that she used as her sources for her inspiration, and I was quite shocked to see that, Gone with the Wind wasn't listed because there are so many moments in this where it genuinely felt like Rhett Butler was about to talk.
Sir, you are no gentleman.
And you, miss, are no lady.
And that Catherine herself was modelled after Scarlett O'Hara.
No, I don't think I will kiss you.
Although you need kissing badly. That's what's wrong with you. You should be kissed and often.
Moments like this could have easily fit into the movie. She said that Jacob Elordi, Heathcliff, reminded her of the guy that she saw on the cover when she read the book at 14.
It looked exactly like the Heathcliff on my sort of very, very well-worn copy of Wuthering Heights that I'd had since I was a teenager.
And so I have gone and dug around and found all of the covers I've been able to from the past, which have characters on the front. And yeah, it does look like he has been misrepresented as a white man with sideburns. So you can see why a child may think this due to the wrong person being represented on the cover. But Emerald is a few years older than me. She's about 40. Meanwhile, this was the cover of the book that I read. I should have known that it wasn't going to be a straight out romance. But you evolve from your 14-year-old self, and these are not teenagers that we're seeing on screen. Our leads in this 2026 movie are white Australians, and the people of colour play supporting roles to their love story. This is where colourblind casting utterly fails, because it's specifically Heathcliff's treatment as a Romani or person of colour that he is treated so cruelly by everybody around him, including abuse at the hands of his new family. In fact, the thoughts, "you're too old to be acting like this," crossed my mind multiple times whilst I was watching this movie, because we've got 35-year-old Margot Robbie acting like a spoilt brat teenager, and it's understandable for Catherine in the book because, spoilers, she passes away at the age of 18 or 19. So when reading the book, you can forgive her ignorance and selfishness because as teenagers, you are often like that. I know I was, as much as at the time I didn't like to think that I would. Could this be a reflection of Emerald Fennell herself, because she couldn't read the character who is described multiple times as having dark skin in the book, only being able to imagine the love interest to be a white man and almost casting herself, Catherine, as a blonde woman. Very much like herself, as opposed to the wild, unruly brunette of the book. And so here is the main family tree from the book, and here is what you get in the movie. You can see that there is a lot that is slashed out of this. For anybody who is a fan of the book and looking forward to seeing these characters brought to life, oh no honey, you're gonna have a bad time. I'm gonna give you a bit of a recap of the movie here so you can see what it actually is. We start with a classic Disney approach of the mother already being dead and gone, and she switches Catherine's father to be the alcoholic, gambler, abusive man as opposed to her brother Hindley, because in this version there is no Hindley at all. On one of Mr. Earnshaw's trips to Liverpool, which was the biggest port for slave trading in the UK, in the movie, he brought back this random boy because he took pity on him for being left outside. In the book, he's described as a dark-skinned Romani slur, which could also be used as a label given to mixed race people. A dirty, ragged, black-haired child. Yet the boy from Adolescence plays him, and he does a very good job, but I think that he would have been fantastic as Hindley. I wish that they should have kept that character in. And Mr. Earnshaw kind of gifts Catherine him as a pet. Like, she's the one who even names him Heathcliff. Because we all knew that this movie was going to be very hot and heavy, I was like, oh, this could be setting up a very interesting power play dynamic. But it's more fun boy, devoted love a la The Princess Bride.
As you wish.
He's a stable boy relegated to the attic above the barn, and he just utterly dotes on Cathy. He'll do anything for her. He'll never leave her. Seriously, he might as well be Wesley.
As you wish.
She's a spoilt brat. She's selfish and self-centered. Nellie over here is Catherine's companion. Her father is of noble blood, but her mother is not, which means that she's an illegitimate child, which means that she gets terribly mistreated. As soon as Heathcliff comes onto the scene, Catherine just abandons Nellie. And I really wish that Emerald actually dove more into this dynamic and this jealousy. But if I want that, I should just watch Jennifer's Body. Catherine and Heathcliff are like this, and it's because he's self-sacrificing that he tells her father that he's the reason that they're late for his birthday. So he gets utterly lashed by her father, and then this cuts forward to seeing the scars on his back as a grown adult. And Catherine is super jealous of the new neighbours who have just moved across the way, the Lintons, in their very fancy house. And she is utterly incensed that they haven't come to visit her because she is so important, obviously. You see what I mean about Scarlet vibes? So one day she storms over to the property and peers over the high stone fence. And we see Edgar, who is outside with not his sister, but his ward, Isabella. Isabella is giving Cecile from Cruel Intentions vibes, and I think that you can pick up where I'm putting down here.
My, what an adorable shirt you're wearing.
Thanks, my father took me on a trip to Australia.
How are things down under? Blossoming, I hope.
Sebastian!
Isabella spots Catherine, who gets scared and falls down to the ground badly, and she hurriedly poses prettily to be seen by him. She stays at the Linton's house for 6 to 7 weeks while she recovers from her terrible injury, to only come back as this transformed lady back to Wuthering Heights. And she is utterly disgusted by where she lives. Poor Loverboy can't match up.
Would they run out of soap down at the Piggly Wiggly since I left?
And she goes to confront him, and they have this big fight, and then that night she's like, oh, I need to go apologise to him, so she climbs up to his attic above the barn. But then Zilla and the stable boy come crashing in, and this is is where you see her lying on the floor looking through the cracks to see what they're doing. This is meant to be her awakening of sorts, because then Heathcliff puts his hand over her mouth and then covers her eyes as well, nearly laying on top of her in this moment that's clearly meant to like get your juices going, but I was just sitting there like, okay. And because of this moment getting her all fired up, she goes to the moors and relieves herself behind a rock, and then Heathcliff discovers her and she is utterly embarrassed by it, but he says like he doesn't care, and he grabs her by her corset strings, lifting her up, and they have this passionate moment. And again, this is meant to be a really hot moment, but I didn't really feel it because we don't see the characters like have this dark enmeshment or anything. You can't get payoff to tension that hasn't been created. But she says that she can't, and she returns to the house to only see her father, who is drunk, having to be propped up by 2 servants, and then Nellie tells her that Edgar is there to visit her, and she's like, oh my goodness. She feels so ashamed, and it's completely understandable. However, Edgar is the nicest person ever, and he is just there to care for her, and he proposes to her off screen, which we only find out about when she's having this whole turmoil moment of, what am I meant to do because it hurts in here, and this is where she and Nellie have this confiding moment. Catherine lashes out at Nellie, saying something akin to, you're never gonna be loved. But sneaky Nellie spots Heathcliff outside of the house, and so she loudly says something like, well, if you love Edgar Linton, then are you going to marry him? And Catherine says that she and Heathcliff are the same, but it would degrade her to marry him. They would be beggars. Which he hears through the door and storms off in a scene that's utterly reminiscent of this part from Gone with the Wind. And the next day, Cathy just waits out on the moors, convinced that he's going to return to her, but he doesn't.
Money! What are you talking? He's got a lot of money!
And she puts off saying yes to Edgar for an entire year as she's getting laced into this corset, and she's like, tighter, tighter, because, you know, you need to punish yourself because, like, you're feeling so bad, you need to feel something, blah, blah, blah.
Tight up, Nellie, but you will not breathe.
Catherine is dissociating. She is unhappily married to genuinely a really lovely guy. He wants her to be happy, to feel safe, and he adores her. She returns home at Christmas to see her father, and the place is in disarray, and he is mean and bitter and cruel to her. She returns to Edgar crying, and he's like, you never have to return there, you're safe here. Like, he is such a lovely guy. I genuinely feel so bad for this man. He travels a bunch for work though, so we know what's coming up. Lady Chatterley lovers moment. And lo, Catherine goes out for a walk on the moors, and who should she see come through the fog? Heathcliff after his glow up.
I needed to make some of myself.
About done?
He's got riches, gold tooth, and a swagger, and is coming across with a smolder much like Flynn Rider.
You broke my smolder.
In the book, he's described as, he is a dark-skinned slur in aspect, in dress and manners a gentleman. She brings him home, which her husband kindly obliges whilst he settles in. And Isabella is hot and heavy for him. Once again, it's Cecile from Cruel Intentions. This is her. And he reveals that he's bought Wuthering Heights, which utterly shocks Catherine. They have a confrontation in the sparkling blue drawing room, and he confronts her about abandoning, but she feels like he did it to her. It really does feel like a fanfic script at this point because it's so much exposition without really feeling anything that's happening. Catherine insists that Isabella come into the room, and she tries to start tempting him with her. And this is where her and Isabella's friendship starts to fracture because, well, Isabella likes him, and obviously nobody but Catherine can handle someone as dark and broody and terrible as Heathcliff. He's cruel, he'll destroy her. Isabella has now effectively become a toy for them both to play with. Turns out Cathy is pregnant with Edgar's child, and he is utterly thrilled about this. But now he has to go off and travel for work, so whatever will she do with this convenient fact that she's already pregnant? And now the affair begins, which I wouldn't exactly call two souls colliding in a storm. More like PG-13 vanilla in picturesque settings. Her father dies of his alcoholism as well, and the way that they display this is in this really incredibly corny way. And Nellie keeps on noticing them, and all I was thinking was,
The lovers are discovered!
And in the end, should someone die?
And this convenient pregnancy means that she doesn't have to worry about her husband at all. Not that she really cared about him to begin with. She's a selfish, entitled 35-year-old brat. And she's always saying to him, we need to stop, blah, 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 blah. Heathcliff reveals that Nellie saw him on the night that she was deciding whether or not to marry Edgar Linton. So he thought that she knew that he could overhear their conversation. That's why he's so angry with her for being so cruel and callous to him. Cathy confronts Nellie in this incredibly good scene, and I wish that she had actually been cast as Nellie herself. Like, she really channels this mean bitch energy very well. And she tells Nellie that she has to find somewhere else to work. She also knows that everything has to end, and Heathcliff is stalking her, and he overhears that she is pregnant with Edgar's child. And he confronts her about this, where she's like, yeah, it's definitely his, sorry. And they have on the goddamn dining room table, and the way that they get off is him saying like how much he wants to hurt and destroy Edgar, and then he takes it too far, saying that he's going to drink his blood, and then Catherine's like, oh, we need to, like, this actually has to end now. This is, like, getting too real for me. And he's like this hurt little puppy on the floor, and then he's determined to destroy her. And so he uses Isabella for this, breaking into her room, and the way that this is done is effectively like her saying that, yeah, she's totally fine with being abused by him. She's meant to have some sort of twisted sense to her, but it really just was not handled well. They get married in Scotland, as was done at the time. He doesn't kiss her then, but he does abuse her a lot. And she starts writing letters to Nellie, begging her to come and save her. At Heathcliff's direction, by the way, because he cannot read or write. And when that doesn't make Catherine do anything, she starts writing to Catherine herself. And Nellie burns all of the letters that are directed at Catherine. This situation is eating Nellie up, so she goes to Wuthering Heights to try and bring Isabella back with her, to see Isabella chained like a dog in the filthy fireplace soot. Nellie's like, this is sickness, this has to stop. And Heathcliff just laughs, like, getting the chain, and he's like, what? If she wants to leave, she'll leave. Begging Isabella to come home with her, and she just grins and she's like, I am home. And Kathy this whole time has been pouting and being dramatic. She's like, the baby's gone, but she hasn't bled, and so Nellie doesn't believe her. And Edgar is getting sick of his wife pining after this man, and he's like, this needs to stop. Catherine just keeps getting sicker and sicker, and Nellie's like, oh, for goodness sake, just get up. And then she rips the bedding off her, and she sees that her legs are just like covered in veins. But Nellie didn't believe her because Catherine has been making herself sick for so many years at this point. Not that the movie tells you that. You have to know this from the book context because that happens in the book so often. So it was understandable that Nellie didn't believe her, but now it's all Nellie's fault that she's dying. Catherine miscarries and passes away, and oh my goodness, Heathcliff finds out and he comes galloping across the moors, goes past her husband, and he's like, you don't want to see it. But then he sees it and he's just destroyed by it, and this is where we have him pleading, please haunt me, never leave me, you know, like all the famous stuff that you already know. And that's where the movie ends, because why would we want to go to the second half of the book, which actually deals with the intergenerational trauma and the grave digging stuff and all the other haunting things about it. Like, so many adaptations only cover like to this part of the book anyway, so are we all that surprised? No. So you see how this is not at all this? I'm positive that Dominic Noble will do a video on this, and I'll have his channel link for you down below. I don't know when he'll come out with the video, but I'm certain that he will. He does a great job at comparing the movie to the book, and yeah, it's really good. And now you understand why I'm saying it's a self-insert fanfic. And I also just heard her saying in an interview about, oh, maybe there's a Wuthering Heights too. Please no. Emerald has many talents and the movie is beautiful, but this is not a story that she should have told if her only lens can really be from a white 14-year-old's perspective. She should never have called this Wuthering Heights. She should have given it a totally different title, maybe one of the many which I provided her with earlier. Cast teenagers to early 20-year-olds in these roles, and put it out on Netflix, because I can guarantee you the teens and the young adults would love it. There have been many terrible fanfiction adaptations which are well beloved by people. The expectations were set for this movie because of the uncreative title, so it's understandably left people feeling like,
you have been weighed, you have been measured,
and you absolutely
have been found wanting.
And I know that Emerald can do better. Emerald also says that these are the movies that inspired her, and seriously, go watch them instead. But some of them I was very surprised to make it onto the list. Genuinely. I wouldn't go recommending this one, for example.
My life has been bitter since I last heard your voice. I kept going only for you.
Race plays a critical role in Wuthering Heights, as anybody who has read the story except for Emerald Fennell will be able to tell you. And so many retellings of Wuthering Heights have happened over the years, and in the movies, except for one, Heathcliff is played by a white man. And it actually caused a major stir in 2011, including this piece from The Guardian, because people were shocked to see a black person, like diversity happening in the cast. People grappling with seeing people on colour on screen in traditional settings. Oh no, we can only have white people. Dear, we're still stuck in that conversation today with some people, aren't we? In the 2011 version, they also cast Kaya, who is famous as Effie from Skins. And so for me, it makes sense casting her as that, because I grew up seeing her as that broken wild child on the show. In terms of the plot, Heathcliff's race and othering is a key part as to why these two lovers cannot be together. To diminish that is to erase a key component of Emily Bronte's work, and her critique on the world. Yet another descriptor for Heathcliff's appearance is dark, almost as if he came from the devil, by Nellie, a little Lascar or an American or Spanish castaway. At the time, Lascar was a term used for Indian and Southeast Asian sailors, and sometimes their children, employed or trafficked by the East India Company. Being labelled a castaway from the Americas or Spain, including the Caribbean, only reinforced reinforces the idea that Heathcliff is not meant to be read as a white English boy. And as Floridian Florence says in this reel,
on the other hand, the Lintons represented high-class white British society for upholding the system of racism. Heathcliff even said he wished he had the fair skin, blonde hair, and blue eyes of Edgar Linton. As a Romani person, I'm not surprised Heathcliff was whitewashed. We've had entire shows about living, breathing Romani families without a single Romani actor. This just points to a wider systemic problem. Even in 2025, only 8% of show creators were people of color. Creators of color need to be given equal opportunities as well.
It is so irresponsible to tell this story with a white Heathcliff in this big year of 2026. Like, sure, we can just bring class into the discussion, but the rich man, poor man story has been told so very many times. I'm a fan of it, but that is not just what Wuthering Heights is. And Princess Weeks is not one, but two fantastic videos that I'm going to have linked for you down below on this. Because there is the whole issue of tall, dark, and racially ambiguous. The tall, dark, and handsome label can mean an utter myriad of things depending on who you're talking to. Like me growing up, for example, I thought tall, dark, and handsome meant a white man with the tan and dark hair, maybe brown eyes. Because that was what I grew up hearing, either from like family members or from TV shows. They were also probably referencing Italians, and I know that people are going to say, well, they weren't considered to be white, just like Irish people weren't considered to be white. Once again, go to Princess Weeks' video. A patron also shared their experience growing up in the UK from their mother and grandmother's perspective. John Willoughby from 1994's Sense and Sensibility and Edward Rochester from 1997's Jane Eyre, they would count as tall, dark, and handsome. In Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, Marilyn's character says this:
if they're tall, dark, and handsome, she never gets around to vital statistics.
And who is it that Dorothy ends up with? A white man with blue eyes and dark hair. And she's also in this room that is filled with men who are her ideal, tall, dark, and handsome men, who are all white men with brown or black hair. Honestly, get it, girl. I like Dorothy.
The chaperone's job is to see that nobody else has any fun. But nobody chaperones the chaperone.
But Dorothy...
That's why I'm so right for this job.
But there's definitely only white people in this picture. Even Angel from Buffy is referred to as such.
Who is this hunk of tall, dark, and handsome? Just a friend.
And it's also been typically contrasted to the classic English rose. Like, you know how pale I am, for example? That's because of my recessive genes, which just mean that I spend more at the doctor. But it's always used as a way of like marking her as this fair maiden. And it emphasizes the fact that she's Anglo-Saxon, which, you know, the whole genes issue, as I've spoken about before, there's a lot of white supremacy linked in there. Typically when white people are talking in white circles about who they're dating, if they say tall, dark, and handsome, they still mean someone that's white, because if they mean someone that's black, Indian, Polynesian, or whatever, they will actually just say that straight up. Because dark just means a deeper skin tone, whereas it's a whole other separate category, okay? Like, this is, again, why I keep on recommending those Princess Weeks videos for you. I'm just sharing, like, what I've experienced anytime that I'm in, like, a purely white circle. And the thing is that the town I grew up in the UK was a very multicultural town. The problem is, because of white supremacy, white is still seen as the default. And if a white woman is interested in a man, well, he should be a white man because of the whole race mixing being a terrible thing and like all of the other eugenics, white supremacy stuff that I've talked about many times on my channel. And let's be honest, white supremacy never left the UK, it's only gotten more violent now. We are seeing people be racially profiled and rounded up on US streets at the moment. ICE has always been bad, as Some More News has indeed talked about, but this is on a scale that has not been seen in many decades. To ignore the racial aspect of world building is to be completely separated from that world entirely, which maybe is why someone as rich and privileged as Emerald Fennell just couldn't tap into this. What was also bothering me about this movie is why are the people of colour in the helping position to the two main characters who are in this tumultuous love affair who just end up hurting the people of colour? Nellie is played by Hong Chow and is often abused by Catherine and gets abused by other staff too. She does lash out in ways that she can, like burning up the letters, but she's the one that's trying to patch things up, especially for poor Isabella, who is also a victim in this toxic, twisted thing. It is completely understandable for Nellie to totally tire of this bratty, self-centered white woman who has all the riches in the world, who has everything in the world. It makes sense that she'd be done with her shit, and yet she's the one who let Kathy down and is the reason that she dies. I think it's great that we've got a morally grey, complex character here, and I did really enjoy the way that she acted in it. She displays Heathcliff's struggles better than Jacob Elordi ever could. And Good Linton in this version is played by Shazad Latif, who would high-key make a fantastic Heathcliff. Or the other fan favourite is Dev Patel, but I can only ever remember him from seeing him in Skins because that show really did have such a grip on me as a teenager.
He's seventh heaven.
sorry. Got to go. But I can see why people say that he would make a great Heathcliff. Shahzad Latif is of Pakistani, Scottish and English descent, and Linton in the book is specifically meant to be the rich, white, blonde nobleman. So colourblind casting here just screws everything up about the story. He gets mistreated so badly by Kathy, and I couldn't help but feel like we were just falling into the trope of the Asian man not ever being able to be seen as desirable once again, and him being taken advantage of by a white woman again, you know, and he's just meant to stay super nice, and he's so nice and helpful and everything. Like, I just felt terrible for him the whole time. Colourblind casting can work in some cases, but in a story like Wuthering Heights, it just can't. And to be honest with you, Bridgerton falls into this trap as well. Since 2 of the main families are white, it means that a lot of the diversity has to be added in through love interests who can get discarded or like just shoved to the side or exotified. Colourblind casting can work, for example, how Whitney Houston did this when it comes to the version of Cinderella starring Brandy. I really like that version, by the way.
You got a problem with that?
Character's race doesn't play a major part in that story at all, but it did give her daughter someone to be able to look up to and see in a princess role. There are so few roles in classic literature that actually centre the lived experience of a person of colour or a Romani person. To have this sort of approach that's been employed here is not only irresponsible, but it's cruel. We're at a time where we're dealing with out and proud white supremacists. People are unashamedly fretting about the great replacement theory, and for the story for the person of colour to be a cuck to the white man who she's meant to be with, who she has this great love with, is really not sending a good message. I'm not saying that's Emerald's intention at all with this. I don't even think it even crossed her mind, and that's part of the problem. And the thing is that we've known how big this movie is going to be since its release. With great power comes great responsibility, as Uncle Ben did teach us. But Emerald is the one who wrote and directed this. A girl who grew up rich and said that boarding school stopped her from going off the rails. Who went to Marlborough College, not the cigarettes, but the same place that Diana Spencer actually went to. She is part of the upper echelon. Her father has designed jewellery for Madonna and Elton John. It's also why Saltburn missed the mark for so many people, because the class critique wasn't really there except towards middle class people who were trying to gain momentum and go upper. So, yeah, you can still enjoy the work, you can still enjoy the movies, it's just, like, she isn't able to do the class critique because she's part of the higher class. The worst thing that the rich people do in that movie is really just ambivalence, ignorance. The rest of the time, they're even downright polite. So it kind of makes sense to me why she's not engaged with the work. And this story wound up being rich man versus poor man vibes, but with a more unhinged edge. All I could do was make a movie that made me feel the way the book made me feel, and therefore it just felt right to say it's Wuthering Heights, and it isn't. It certainly isn't Wuthering Heights. There are definitely parts of this movie that I really enjoyed. I know that so many people hate the costumes, but seriously, the designer, Jacqueline Duran, she designed the costumes for the Barbie movie, she designed Keira Knightley's dresses in Anna Karenina, which I know at the time were hated, but I do feel like some of the pieces that are made for this are actually so beautiful. And I know that this dress in particular got so much hate, but the whole point was that Kathy was imagining herself as like having to wrap herself up as a gift for Linton, you know, on their wedding night. That's the whole point of it, and it was inspired by this picture. I totally get it, and the thing is that, you know that I'm a trash panda, right? Like, all of my stuff, nearly all of it, is secondhand. And I grew up in the 90s and 2000s, and so iridescent kind of fabric has a chokehold on me. So I'm sure that people are going to be like, oh, well, it's polyester heights or whatever, and it's like, that's fine. I really liked the high shine fabrics, and I really liked some of these pieces. But in terms of the movie as a whole, I think that you can tell, even though the score I really enjoyed Charli XCX's music in it as well. I think visually it is stunning. I can see what this could have been if only Emerald had collaborated more and brought in diverse voices. She's definitely talented, and I believe that she should still absolutely be working, but I just want her to have a broader circle. Otherwise, we're just going to continue to get this stale rich white woman approach to movies. When I believe that she's capable of greatness, she wanted this movie to be the new Titanic, and I don't really think it's there. As someone that does really enjoy Titanic, By not expanding her horizons and challenging herself, she's only going to continue to appeal to a small subset of white women. But maybe she doesn't care, and maybe that's part of the problem. With this film, she gave us a visual feast, but I left hungry. I would love to see a Wuthering Heights miniseries be made where it's actually told by Romani people or people of colour. Genuinely, I think that would be so very good, especially today. As one of my patrons said, the really good thing about this film is that so many more people are now discovering the work of Emily Bronte, and so they want to read the book themselves. And so I'm like, that's great, fantastic. You're in for a dark time, but it's also a very important piece of literary work. Wuthering Heights has inspired so many movies and fan fiction about it. It was the inspiration behind Twilight's Breaking Dawn after series, which is terrible, yes, but it was inspired by greatness. And we also have this great Kate Bush banger, right? And if you loved this movie, I'm very happy for you. It's just not Wuthering Heights. That's the real kicker, you know? If the core themes were there, then I could get behind it. Like I said, I really did want to like this, but oh well, here we are, and now you've got a video from it, and Emerald is going to keep on producing whatever she wants to produce. Made it all the way to the end of this video. Maybe like the wind emoji, or is there a fog emoji, or like hills or something, because, you know, it's all about the moors. Like, that's a character in this, and I think that she captured that well in the film. That's the thing, it was so beautiful. If only like there was substance, you know, that's why I'm saying I left hungry. Thank you very, very much for making it all the way to the end of this video. And thanks again to my patrons, because they do shape what you see before you. And I've been chatting to them about this, and I was trying to plan the video out. I had a whole other idea, and then the movie came out. And I'm like, oh, this no longer works. And an extra special thank you to all of my top tier Trash Panda enablers. Alyssa, Anna, Anna Marie, Back to Fly, Bee in a Jar, Baguette, Butt Munch McGee, Caroline and Violet, Carrie, Danielle, Dr. Worm, Dr. Bun, Elise, Emberly McCulley, Jane, Jess, Katie Fukuhara, Christine Ryan, Laura Bell, Mark Tremonti is God, Mary Sweet, Megan Connolly, Monica Jensen, Natalie R, Nathan, Nick Neither Nor, Nicole H, Pink is Life, Queen Wintersby, Rachel Brazzi, Ryder, Sheriff Truman, Snetty, Spooky Jade, Tammy Poitras, Tasha McKinney, Tonya Bernier, Veru Cat Mama, and Sophima. So now I've told you all of my thoughts on the movie. Did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy the book if you've read it? Or were you like me at the age of like 19, 20, looking for like this epic romance, and then you left deeply disturbed by it because it is a highly disturbing book? It's good. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying like, I was looking for sweeping romance, not necrophilia. Okay, anyway, I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye. Nobody told me that my lash was lifted, however long that was up there for. I am so sorry. That is so embarrassing. Oh my goodness.